Let's do it. So, welcome, Jay. It's a pleasure to have you here. Finally, we meet. I would like to start introducing a little bit about yourself. You are right now in Australia. Maybe you help me in which city?
I'm in Sydney, Australia, man.
In Sydney, so the last continent I still have to visit. And you're 24 years old. You're an entrepreneur, filmmaker, speaker, and writer. You just told me off the record you're writing on your next book. And
yeah, I'm actually 25 now.
25, yeah, time goes fast.
It does, man.
And maybe to start with, Jay, because I know you have a lot of things to do, and you take care of your health, sports. You have your the new story unboxed. Maybe you could start with telling me how would you define yourself, and because on your LinkedIn profile it says a persistent and passionate 25-year-old. What are your goals? Maybe you could start with that.
Yeah, firstly, man, it's great to be here. Thank you for the invitation to speak to your community, and I hold that in high regard and high respect, and appreciate your patience with me, especially trying to make this happen. But how would I define myself? Yes, I love saying that I am persistent, but I also love saying that my character and my integrity, I hold quite dear to my heart and quite close to me. And I don't make decisions unless I know for a fact that it's something that I truly want to do. And if it goes against my integrity, or if it goes against my character, then I won't make a decision that will reflect negatively on that. Because for me, that is one of the most important things that you can hold dear to your, not just your heart, but your life. And it's kind of like your I guess your compass. It also helps inform your values in the world around you. So, you know, I define myself by being someone that is genuinely curious as well, like loves stories, loves listening to people. And I have the pleasure and privilege, I guess you could say as well, to unbox the stories of many people around the world. Doesn't matter who they are, famous or not so famous, because I believe that everyone has a story and every story matters.
And how were you raised? Because some of my audience would say, oh, you're very young for having done so many things.
Yeah, I was raised in...
Was it in a particular way, or were you simply very mature for your age? Or
Yeah, I would say that I was... towards like the later stage of my life, I was more mature because of the experiences that I had growing up. So I had a lot of nasty things, a lot of loss, a lot of grief, a lot of pain quite early on in my life. So that helped shape my understanding of the world around me. And I was also raised with the right values as well, but you've got to form your own values. You can't just base it off your parents. You can't steal them. You got to make your own. And one of them, my grandfather especially, he taught me the value of hard work. He taught me the value of persistence, and he also taught me the value of never procrastinating. And those are some of the things that I was raised with, and I saw a lot of, and I just adopted it in my life in my own unique way, I guess you could say. Like they give you the wisdom and the advice, and it's up to you whether or not you want to shape that into your own view of the world and how you do actually show up in the world, or you can't. I don't believe you can be a complete copycat, but you can model your life after someone else. And I chose to model my life mostly after my grandfather and my mum as well. And also I was raised in a Christian household too. So having an understanding and a belief in God and my own personal walk with him and faith. So those are all all the things that I was raised with, and even though I am young, I think that's more of a positive than a negative in many respects. And most importantly, that if you can learn all the things that I have now learned at a young age, then you can save yourself from a lot of pain. Like, you don't have to go through all the things that I went through and have to go through a lot of suffering. You can choose a different path. And that's the kind of message that I give out to a lot of people, is that it's your choice whether or not you want to be a victor of the pain or you want to be a victim. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
What would you say is suffering for you? Because you mentioned it.
Suffering, I believe, is ultimately our response in terms of suffering comes usually as a result from pain, but we can choose to stay in the stage of suffering, or we can choose whether or not we want to get out of it. And I believe we ultimately have that ability within us, because like I was saying, you can choose to get stuck and bogged down and become a victim of the pain and the suffering, and you wallow in self-pity, which doesn't do you any good at all. And I know it's not easy to get out of a difficult situation. Believe me, I've been there. But if you want to truly have the best life possible, then you can choose to take yourself out of a place of suffering. And I love saying you need to use the challenges as fuel, or the wind beneath your wings, to give you that ability to get up and soar high in your life. I use the analogy of an eagle because it's so vital, and it's rather poetic and profound, I like saying as well, because it's a visual image of, if you've ever seen an eagle soaring in the sky, it's beautiful, it's magnificent. And that's what I am always striving for, no matter what I go through. It's to be like the eagle, to soar high in my life. And when challenges do come, no matter how many times I do get knocked down, I will get back up, and I will allow challenges to serve me. I won't serve the challenges. And quite oftentimes people do the opposite of what I just said. They allow the challenges, they serve the challenges, rather than the challenge serving them. And it just takes away a lot of your energy, takes away your ability to be the very best version of yourself. So in a nutshell, that is your choice if you choose the path of suffering. Yeah.
And so, maybe you could tell us a little bit more, which kind of suffering did you live? Or because you say it has been important to you, and you have taken like very important life lessons of it. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about that. But also, you mentioned before your grandfather, the role of your grandfather, that the habit of non-procrastinating. I think today in this world, procrastination is so popular, so modern. And even I have a little bit of progress, well, a little bit, sometimes more. How do you overcome it? And how does it look on your day-to-day basis? Because we have so many things going on, and it's of course also control of your mind, taking your priorities every day. So yeah, go ahead.
So some of the things that I have, I guess, suffered through in my life. Number one, lost my German Shepherd dog when I was, I believe I was 8 years old, 8 or 9. And then not long after that, I had to go through the loss of my grandfather, who I was extremely close with. And he taught me a lot of important lessons. Like I was saying, don't procrastinate. That's just one of the many that he did teach me. But essentially, having him tell me that procrastination only leads to laziness, and don't put off for tomorrow what can be done today, that is a constant reminder going through my mind that whatever task that I am given, every single morning I create a habit around that I don't want to procrastinate in my life. So if I don't want to procrastinate in my life, then I get up and I make the conscious choice that whatever I do in that day is not going to lead me to the path of procrastinating. If I have the ability within the time that I am given in that day, obviously some things, not everything can be achieved in one day. You got to space it out, but at least give some time to it if you can. You know, like I often tell people not to overthink too much about certain things, because overthinking can lead to procrastination. It can make you stop, and the moment you start overthinking something, you attach it to fear, to worry. It's never going to get done. It's too big. Rah rah rah. You name it, whatever it is. So I just say, and I'm kind of speaking to myself here because I have to catch myself at times, not overthinking, not worrying about tomorrow. Focus on today, and then do what you can with the time that you are given today. And always remember that you only are guaranteed of this present moment. You're not guaranteed of a tomorrow. And having that understanding and that knowledge it's fuel for me once again in all the things that I do want to achieve. Obviously not getting ahead of myself or getting ahead of God, but being very mindful that He's blessed me with today, and I should use my time wisely with the energy that I do have in the day. So I get up really early, and I have a philosophy that if you can beat the sun, you can beat whatever comes your way during the day. It doesn't matter what challenge it is, because you're setting yourself up for positive reinforcement, I guess you could say. But if you're beating something that is constant, what is to say that you can't beat something that is random? You know, like, it's not easy to get up early in the morning. I mean, you're getting up at like 6 a.m. in the morning, and I congratulate you for doing that, because it's not an easy thing to do. And, you know, I'm that sort of person that I'll get up, I will spend the first 30 minutes with God, and then I'll get out in nature and I'll exercise. And there's no real days off for me that way, because that's the way my mind works. It helps me get about my day and do and give the very best that I possibly can. And yeah, I'm not about wasting time at all.
The first 30 minutes of your day are with God. Do you meditate or do you pray, or what happens there in these first 30 minutes? I say it also because we normally, as the young people, I know it from my nephews, the first thing they do is the cell phone. Yeah. And maybe it's another type of connection, no?
Yeah, 100%. And I try and make it a part of my life not to look at social media, not to look at my phone for the first 30 minutes of my day. And because I noticed that if you're looking at your phone for the first second that you wake up, immediately you've been bombarded with negative information. That it's just, your brain needs time to unwind. It needs time to get away from the distractions of the world. And so, yes, if you want to say, I call it prayer and meditation, because I'm meditating on the words that I read in the Bible, and I am praying to God and asking Him to bless my day, to give me the strength to get on with my day. And He does all the time. He shows up for me all the time. And when I don't see Him, He does the very best thing that He can possibly do. He carries me along. And that for me is a huge, huge blessing, because I don't know where I would be without Him. And I always say that I owe Him everything and He owes me nothing. Yet He still gives. Yet He still provides. Yet He still gives me the incredible ability to speak with amazing people and do the things that I do. And, you know, I'm no one special, man. That's the God honest truth. I'm just Jay Fantom, who is a young 25-year-old who loves stories, who loves to help people and believes that is his ultimate purpose. So, yeah, if young people want any advice or they take anything away from this, it's firstly that you're valuable. Secondly, don't go straight to your phone. Put it away and spend a little bit of time reading something. There's power in reading, and because it's knowledge personified. I love saying that. So yeah, man, hopefully that answers your question in long form.
Yeah, perfect. So you like reading? I see it at the back. Apart from the Bible, from the holy texts, what is reading for you? And maybe you could also tell us a little bit more about your daily routine. You started already by saying the first 30 minutes are for you, because a part of the internet or social media addiction, I think it's also something that is very popular, is anxiety. That we do this and this and this, maybe because we don't have a structured, well-structured day. And that's why also we sometimes procrastinate. So maybe you could elaborate a little bit on your day-to-day basis and the reading parts, because we also love to read. So
That's amazing, man. Like, yeah, if you're watching the video, you can see my small bookshelf there. But I got more books off to the side, and yeah, and I've got more books on my computer as well. But yeah, first 30 minutes is spent in prayer, reading the Bible, and then meditating, and then I go for about an hour and 50-minute exercise routine. So I believe that all of us are creatures of habit. Some of us can choose to have good habits in our life, which involves exercise, or we can have bad habits in our life too. And I don't want to create bad habits, because I suffered with a number of addictions that weren't good for me. They didn't serve me well. So I've had to adopt a new routine and try and stop myself from getting ahead. And because it's so easy for me as someone that is struggle with addiction to go back into that period, and I don't want to do that. So I exercise for the sake of my mental health and my physical health. Like, I want to obviously be able to perform, be able to look good as well, but also it gives me mental clarity. Like, getting out in nature, I said before, is like one of the best things you can do for your mind. The fresh morning air when everyone else is asleep. Like, you feel like you are literally ahead of everyone else. And I guess that's what I love about it too. And I just love the sense of feeling free. I listen to podcasts all the time on my run, and I'm always churning the information that I've either read for the first 30 minutes of my day, or I'll listen to something that someone has said on the podcast episode, and I'll think about that more and more. And it's a great opportunity to get my creativity just flowing. And so when I do get home around 7 o'clock in the morning, I don't regret not going. You know, every single time that I don't go, I regret not going because it sets up pretty much a lot of my day. I think all of us have, if you space it out, I probably spend at least 12 hours of my day, if a little bit more than that, working. And that's a long and busy day. But I know it works for me because it helps me get ahead for tomorrow. It helps me plan for tomorrow. And when you're doing so many interviews, it does get hard, but I do take my time. I do look after my health now. I'm very conscious of that. Very aware of nutrition, how that impacts the body, how that impacts the mind and the spiritual health too. And, you know, I've got great friends and family around me that keep me grounded, keep me humble. And that also helps for, I guess, the rest of my day, to be honest, with having conversations with people, like not being so proud and arrogant and stuck up that I can't even speak to my friends or family. Like, Jay's famous or whatever. Like, it's not about that, man. And I'm not famous, and I don't intend to be ever. I just want people to be able to approach me and I can show them kindness. So that is part of my day every single day. So yeah, that's, I guess, my routine. I go to bed around 7:30, 8 o'clock, fairly early, because I'm up at 4 a.m. in the morning. And I prefer it that way. I'm not a night person at all.
7:30.
Sorry?
7:30 p.m.
7:30 p.m.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Some
But
may think that is absolutely crazy and wild for a young person, but I've never really been a night out. Like, I've loved my sleep. I know how important my sleep is, and if I don't get my sleep, then I can't perform. So my sleep routine is I protect it like crazy. And usually towards the end of my day, around this time and closer to 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, my brain starts teetering off. So I lose a little bit of energy. It's because that I've been going for such a long period of time that it just needs its time to rest and relax. And yeah, I feel like that is important.
So you sleep like 8 to 9 hours, no? If you go 7:30,
I try.
Okay,
That's the plan. Ideally, I don't end up getting 8 to 9 hours. Probably around 7 to 6 hours seems to be the average amount. And some days, depending on what day it actually is, especially because I'm running a podcast that has a lot of American-based or European-based guests, I'm usually up around 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, which seems to be like the sweet spot for emails to be sent. And you gotta do what you gotta do, man. Like, in order to get ahead, my show wouldn't be where it is today if I didn't get up early during those periods of time and answer those emails, because you have a window of opportunity, and if you don't capitalize on that window of opportunity, you miss out. And that person's not going to want to give you another chance or the time or day, because if you have that opportunity given to you right then and there, why not capitalize on it right then? Why wait? Why hold off? So that's my line of thinking whenever I get an email or I want to show up for them because they took the time to get back to me. That's takes two to tango. I really believe that. And always remember, no matter how tired you are, whatever, if you're responding to emails, make sure that you are kind. You're not like attacking anyone or sounding sarcastic or any way. Just be kind to them and they will see it. You can usually tell in an email. Like, how I speak to people is how I respond in emails. So if my grammar is not great in my conversation, then usually it's not great in an email. But I guess it's comes with the territory. I guess comes with me being me.
That's interesting. Jay, you mentioned hard work. What is hard work for you, and which way do you want to go? Being 25 years old, what are your professional goals?
I believe that my purpose is to help people realize their worth and reach their full potential. What that looks like is, number one, I work incredibly hard with the podcast. I do it all myself. I have a few friends that have helped me in the past with the music and with the logo. And, I honor those two people that have helped me out with that. And I love speaking. I love sharing my story. I love writing. I love just being around people in general and getting to the core of who they are. And I feel like my professional goals, just one step at a time. So getting the podcast to the stage where I envisioned it to be, and it's growing incredibly fast every single day. And then I guess getting more stories out there, unboxing more and more stories, because that helps other people connect that may be going through a difficult time, that don't know how to be vulnerable, that just need wisdom and advice, and stories are incredibly powerful. They help us grow, or they can do the complete opposite. So I want to bring awareness to this important thing in our life, that everyone has a story and every story matters. So whether that is doing the podcast, speaking, making movies, writing books, all those professional things, they all form a part of who I am, and it just flows out. And if it doesn't flow out, then it's not meant to be. You know, I believe in that. Like, you shouldn't, some things, yes, I believe that you need to be more persistent at, and that has worked for me a number of times, you know, but other things, they do flow. And you'll notice that if it goes against your purpose, if it goes against those, what I was saying in the beginning, your values, your character, what you believe in, then it's not meant to be. And you gotta look at that with wisdom and be mindful of your integrity, be mindful of everything, and you got to make a decision based on that. And I've had to many times, man, and I have not regretted any of the decisions that I've made. I've had people come along and offer me things, and it's been great. Like, the rewards have been fantastic. Any person probably would have taken it, but not me, because I had to stay true to what I knew and what I envisioned the story box being. So, and I'm not afraid to go against that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so many important things, decision making. I would like to ask you, because we're constantly making at least micro decisions, and it's quite, today with so many information, as you mentioned it before, with social media, with negativity, etc., it's sometimes difficult to maintain the ship in the right position. And maybe the writing also, you're writing a book. Many people would maybe ask, it is difficult to concentrate on just one book. Why the effort, etc. Maybe you could tell us more about the book, if you may, and how is this writing process for you? Because you also have to take decisions on writing, no? What do I exclude, what not? You mentioned also that if there's a little bit of resistance, or if it's not flowing, you leave it because it maybe shouldn't be there. But at the same time, sometimes we have to push in order to make it, or in order to create it. How is this for you in your writing habits?
So my first book that I wrote is called The Path of an Eagle: How to Overcome and Lead After Being Knocked Down. And that is really, it forms part of my story, some of the things that I had been through and experienced, and the wisdom and the advice that I have learned as a result of going through such experiences. And I thought to myself, who am I to hold on to such valuable information? And what if a young person, or even a person that is your age right now or older, what if they're going through something and this could possibly help them? What if they pick it up one day and I never know if it's going to help someone, like, or who it's going to help, for that fact. But there's not just my stories in there. There are stories of other people that I've had the blessing of speaking with, and they've been able to pass down a lot of their wisdom and their advice. And then I'm just passing it along and saying, this is what I took from it. What can you take from it as well? And the whole book is quite literally filled with stories. And I did that on purpose because I wanted, I know how powerful stories are. I wanted it to be intriguing. I wanted it to be engaging for people. And I didn't want it to be boring. And when I read a book, I am always engaged the most when I'm reading stories. I'm less engaged when I'm reading someone's opinion on the page, or medical advice, or science. I mean, that is all good and well, and I will read it, but I love more reading stories. And I learn more from stories than I do anything else. And the way you craft your story, the way you write it all down, makes a huge difference. So the way I wrote this book was the way it's my voice. Usually I wanted to be a good storyteller. I'm still learning, by the way, on how to be a good storyteller, how to tell better stories and my language and all that. So I just did it like that. I wanted it to be real. I wanted it to be vulnerable because I know that's going to help someone connect with it, or at least I hope. And I say in the introduction as well that I believe that there is a story for someone in the book because it covers so many different areas, because that's what I've been through. A lot of different crazy scenarios, and I've learned a lot. And I say that I am grateful that I have been through such experiences and I have learned what I have learned, because now I can pass it along to other people for the next generation. And that is part of leadership. Part of good leadership is passing on all the good wisdom and all the good advice in the form of stories so people can understand it and they can apply it a lot easier in their life. And because I know that's how it's helped me. Some of the best books that I've read, are made that way. And I think your other question was I write books because I love to write. I love the creative process of when you get an idea, then you flesh it all out, and it actually forms something truly amazing. And then when I get those creative blocks, as they call it, I take a step back and I'm not going to force it. If it's not flowing in that respect, then I won't force it. I'll take a step away. And some of the best advice that I ever got in terms of being a writer was, every single day, write something down. It doesn't have to be good. It can be absolutely shocking, but at least you've done something. At least you've written something down. And then tomorrow you can go back to it, or whenever you want, and look at it and see, okay, what was I thinking when I wrote that down? Or how can I continue on with this line of thought? And so that's what I try and do with the next books that I am writing. And, whenever I have, not every idea that I have is going to form a book. It really isn't, or let alone a good book. I think that just comes with, I've had a lot of ideas that have flooded in my brain, and I've thought, I can't write that into a book. And then I had another idea recently that I actually thought wasn't going to be a book at all. And yet here I am writing the book, and it's just flowing because I cracked the nut of what was stopping me from actually writing the book. It was sometimes you just need to be inspired a little bit from someone else, or you need that extra push. And that's what I needed in order to get this next book that I'm writing, which is 100% about this concept of unboxing stories. And I feel like this one that I am writing at the moment is going to be another powerful book, even though my first book hasn't even come out, and I'm still looking for publishers. But that's all part of the journey. Like even though I am not guaranteed of a publisher, I'm not guaranteed of anything, I continue doing it because you never know what's going to happen around the corner. Tomorrow I could get an amazing email that says, "Congratulations, Jay, we want to offer you a publishing contract." That would be outstanding, and I would welcome it so much. But until such time as that does happen, and I know it will happen eventually, it's just about taking each day as it comes and working as hard as I possibly can, being faithful in the little things, and later I'll be blessed in the much. That's what it's all about. And if I can hate anything, it's hating patience. Because patience is a horrible, horrible term, but it is so, so vital and so important for our growth and our ability to become the best version of ourselves in this world.
What is the best version of Jay Fantom?
Best version of
You
Jay
said
Fantom.
already so much, but maybe you could resume it. What would be your best version?
Best version
What are
of
you
Jay
expecting
Fantom.
of yourself still? Because you mentioned there are still some books coming, or you will write some books.
I've got 7 books in total that I've either written or am writing currently, and I want to write many more. I want to be one of those authors. I mean, you hear of people like John Maxwell that have written over 80-something books, and you think, how in the world have you done something like that? Or Max Lucado, for example, and they've written in that huge number, and they continue to churn out books. And it's kind of like, how do you do that? And they said to me, Jay, like, this comes with time and experience, more or less. And once you do your first one, then the next one usually flows out. Or you can be one of those people that has one book in you and that's it. But I didn't want to be one of those people. I always had a goal initially of writing 5 books, and then that goal expanded to 7 books. Now it's 8 or 9. And I don't know in the years to come how many more books I can write, or whether or not I will write them. I've got to get the first one off the ground, and then focus on these other ones that I do have passion behind, and that I do have this love towards as well. And I'll continue showing up in my podcast as well. Like, that's part of who I am, and I'll continue to go for as long as I possibly can until God says stop. So the best version of Jay Fantom would be just showing up as authentically as I possibly can every single day, being kind, being genuine, being a person of integrity once again, and showing people that, despite the knockbacks and the rejections and you name it, all the challenges, that is going to be used, if you choose and allow it to be, a way for you to step up and a way for you to become the very best version of yourself. And I said not too long ago, you can either be like the eagle, or you can, stay on the ground. It's your choice.
You mentioned it maybe before, but your purpose. Maybe it would have been the first question, but I would like to ask you as like the last question. What is your purpose in the sense, or how did you find it? Because I think for you it is so clear, it is very clear, and it is, from my experience, not very common that many people, even 60, 70-year-old, etc., that they don't have a purpose, or they don't know, they just go like it goes. Maybe you could give us some tips, or how did you find it? I think I know in which direction you would go. And the other question was the sports and nutrition issue. What kind of sport do you practice? And are you vegetarian, vegan, or because you mentioned you look very well to the nutrition issue?
So I'll touch on the purpose topic because I feel like that is really, really important. And I didn't know, initially growing up, I thought that my purpose had everything to do with what I did. So I wanted to be a filmmaker. I wanted to tell stories through the power of film, and everything that I did would revolve around this medium of film. I wanted to go to film school, but life didn't take me in the direction that I wanted to, and I wrestled against it. I fought it. I got angry, and that just led me down some very, very dark paths, man. It wasn't good at all. I was very miserable. I was lost. I didn't know that I had worth. I didn't know that I was lovable. And it was just a massive, massive climb. It was a struggle. And, how many other people are just like me, or were like me, or are still going through that period of their life where they don't know what their purpose is? And they can go, you're right, they can go for many, many years and not discover or not know. They can go to their grave and not know what it actually is. But I realized that it was like this light bulb had burst, this old one had burst in my mind, and a new one had put in its place after I went through a crazy ordeal in 2019, and which sort of was the catalyst for me starting the story box, and I realized that my purpose didn't have anything to do with what I did. It had everything to do with who I was. Me just being alive right now is the best purpose of all. You cannot change that. You cannot go against it as much as you want. You being alive, because life is precious. Life is valuable. Your story is the most valuable thing on the face of this earth, and you've got to value it. Despite what you've been through, the good, bad, the ugly, you name it, whatever it is, you are 100% born with a purpose already, and that is to be alive. Be grateful for that, and you take who you are, your character, your values, your flaws, everything into what you do, and not the other way around. The moment you take it, the moment you think that it's all about what you do, you're going to get feeling deflated, because what happens when you do achieve the thing that you set out to achieve? You're always thinking, what's next? What's going to be around the corner for me next? You know, like, it's always that mentality. And society has conditioned a lot of people to believe that if you don't get this university degree, if you don't get this job, then you somehow don't have any worth at all. It's all wrong. It's all skewed up. It's all very, very clever marketing that needs to change. And I'm going to work my absolute best for as long as I live, and I have been blessed to be alive on this earth, to change the narrative of you were and forever will be enough. You don't have to do something amazing. You don't have to do anything grand. You just being alive is enough. Your story matters no matter what anyone else says. You just need to start believing in it, because half the battle for a lot of people is actually believing that they are enough. And I say this, there is no greater purpose than a God-given purpose. Because if you think about it, he was the one that gave you life in the first place, if you believe that or not. I know there's a lot of people out there that have a lot of religions and different faiths and beliefs, you name it, that's okay. But the way I look at it, and it's worked for me, and it's worked for so many other people as well, that when you start looking at your life from the perspective of, hang on a minute, I am enough no matter what. No matter what I do, no matter what I say, I am enough right now. That's important. And that's what people should value above all else. And if you lose everything tomorrow, you've still got your character. You can start again. It's okay. And having that understanding of that is your purpose. And let me also say this, your purpose will evolve over the course of your life as you grow up, as you start forming more ideas and understandings of the world. And that is okay too. But your purpose, yes, it will evolve, but it's the foundational truth of you are and forever will be enough. And
well said, Jay.
Yeah, the other side of your question, which is sport and everything. I used to play a lot of basketball and volleyball. Played state level volleyball and state level basketball here in Australia, in Sydney, Australia, more or less. And I was quite passionate more about basketball than I was in volleyball, but I was great in both. More, I could have gone even further in volleyball actually, but I love the stress that all sport gave me, and I love that feeling of growing stronger within myself and my body, and being able to move a lot. I don't play basketball as much now because the guys that I play with, we've all grown up and we're all busy with our jobs and our lives, which, I kind of really do miss. Every now and then my mates will call each other up and then we'll set up a time, but that might be one or two times a year now. So it's not every day because you just don't have the time as much as I would love to. But I do keep up my fitness in the morning. I'll run for like 45 to 50 minutes in the morning and do like a CrossFit style workout, body weight after that. I used to do CrossFit as well in 2016. Another long story entirely that we'll probably get into at a later time. But Yeah, I think exercise is fantastic, and the nutrition and diet side of things. I did go keto, I did go paleo. I've tried all of the diets, but I have what they call the freedom diet now, where I just eat. I'm mindful of what I eat, but I eat to enjoy food and life. Obviously, being mindful with the kind of food that I'm eating with my current health conditions. But it's okay every now and then to have cookies. It's okay to have ice cream. It's okay to have all these things, but you've got to find what works for you ultimately. And yeah, like I just do my best not to overindulge, not to be a glutton, but just to eat because I love eating and enjoying it. So yeah, man, hopefully that answered your question.
Maybe the last two questions, the one would be connected to miserable and addictions. Before you mentioned it very shortly that you were miserable and some addictions, etc. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about this stage, and the other would be connected to your curriculum. The story unboxed, when did you started it? And you mentioned it also, you were doing CrossFit in 2016, and before the pandemic, you were also doing other stuff. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about this to end.
So the Storybox started, the first version started, it's a very, very long story, but the first version started in around the beginning of 2018, but that fell flat on its face pretty quickly. But that was just revolving around film and me and a good friend of mine talking about movies and stories, whether or not they were good. And then they would go in like this virtual box for later on, which became known as the Storybox. This whole term of unboxing stories wasn't around then. I had no idea what it was. And then, like I was saying, I went through a lot of addiction things, which revolved around eating disorders and me ending up in hospital and all kinds of things, man. Like spent 9 days in hospital as a result of my eating disorders, addiction to exercise, and it just wasn't good at all. Like a lot of learning experiences, a lot of painful moments there, losing all my dignity that I cherished and held dear to me, to get me to realize that I needed to change my life in a better way. But then in 2019, went into real estate, had crazy experiences in real estate. And then that sort of, when I left real estate, led me on the trajectory of trying to find out who I really was in my life and what I wanted to do. And I started asking myself all the tough questions that oftentimes a lot of people do avoid, and came to the realization and the knowledge of what I wanted to do, which was help people realize that they are worth something and their story does matter. And how I went about doing that was starting the Storybox 2.0, and started with friends and family, and it grew thanks to, if I can say this, the pandemic. It kind of forced everyone to be at home, and it had this availability. No one knew what they were doing or what they were going to do until they started adapting to it as well, like everyone else had to. But that offered me to, get into their inbox and then share my heart with them, and they got interested, and it just was one person after the next, just like building a house, the building blocks of the house. Except I say I'm building the blocks of the actual story box with one story at a time, just one thing after the other. And then, I'll use this analogy as I'm building the story box with each person's individual story. So one person's story makes a brick, right? And I just put it in. And yeah, November of 2019, it officially started, and I've kept it going ever since. It's not even 2 years old yet. I think it turns 2 November 15th, which is actually I didn't plan this at all, nor did I know, but it's the anniversary of my grandfather's passing on November 15th. So, I endeavor to do him proud every single day that I have an interview and every single day that I'm alive. So, yeah, hopefully that answered all your questions.
That's great. Yeah, so many things we could still talk, but of course, you have other things to do, and you're not going to get too late to bed.
Thanks,
well, thanks so much, Jay. Maybe you could, because maybe we will have another lockdown, who knows? And I think Australia was having a very long one. You mentioned the films and the books. Could you recommend us something? Because you like reading, you are a cinema man, so maybe some recommendations. You want to make
so many books you can read, so many movies. I love Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey, first and foremost. That's one of my favorite books. I read that in quite literally 2 days. I'm reading at the moment, I've almost finished it, The Lighthouse Effect, how ordinary people can have an extraordinary impact in the world, full of stories too. So it's a great read. There's another book called Chatter by my friend, Dr. Ethan Cross. He's a brilliant storyteller, and he conveys a lot of good information about what goes on up in our mind and how we can control it a lot better. Let me see what else. The Relentless Courage of a Scared Child. That's by my friend Tana Amen, Dr. Daniel Amen's wife. Brilliant book. Highly encourage you guys to get that one. Movies. I'm just excited for Kingsman, to be honest, the new Kingsman movie, whenever that decides to come out. Yeah, that's.
Well,
let me see what else.
That's great. Already some recommendations.
Yeah, there's heaps, man. Like, you got the Da Vinci Code. You've got Lion. You've got Angels and Demons. You've got what else? Even the movies on my back wall. You got Back to the Future, Jaws, Unbroken. One of my favorite all-time movies is The Princess Bride. All those ones, man. Have fun.
So much to see, so much to watch, so much to read. Jay, thank you, and a big hug to Sydney, Australia, and we stay in touch, and all the best.
Likewise, man. Big hug back.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.